All right, everyone, as promised, here is the video for how to use your clay. I'm going to work with the clay that I've already worked with before because it's going to be a little bit more malleable, but I can already see it's a little bit hard. So I'm just going to try to work as though I were wedging it like regular clay, which would not really be necessary with this type of clay because we won't fire it. So this is the Sculpey. It's the original Sculpey. It's a little bit on the hard side. This clay has been used before, so it's a little bit softer than it will be like when you're getting it. It's still going to be in this condition, and it's going to be hard to use because pieces will break off, and you'll have to be able to slowly break them up more and work them in. But I'm working this one on the mat a little bit to just try to soften it up a little bit before I start working with it. And you notice it does stick to the mat a little bit, so the mat moves. You can hold it with one hand while pressing down with the other. I'm just trying to get it softer a little bit, get it moving, and try to get it into a ball shape. So I'm going to just try to pound it a little bit to try to get it a little rounder. I'm not going to pound it. This is not actually as much pressure as it might sound on the video. And if I were working with earthenware clay, I would be doing the same thing, just trying to pat it into a nice round shape and get it nice and smooth. This clay probably needs a little bit more smoothing with your fingers and things like that. But the difference is, even if this has a little bit of a hole in it, it's not going to explode in a kiln because we won't be firing it. So what you'll do to start, we're going to make a pinch pot. Going to be a lot harder with this type of clay than it would be with earthenware, so I just want you to be prepared. Same method though, we're going to press our thumb in a little bit. You'll see it makes a little hole. Just hold our thumb in there. It's kind of in the center where it should be. All right, now I'm going to gently squeeze, and with this clay I'm going to squeeze a little hard, but the idea is you turn it and squeeze. The thumb is the placeholder. This part of your hand is actually doing the work. This part is pressing down. So I'm holding the clay right in my hand. I'm keeping it up off the table so it's staying in this hand for support. And I'm very gently going to work my way around. You'll notice that as I get around the clay one time, it starts to open up a little more. It's not a dramatic opening. I'm working it a little bit slow. If it were earthenware clay, I would be working much more slowly, because that clay, you'll get stress marks in it if you were working this quickly. But I'm going to work slowly and keep pressing. As I'm working my way down, now this clay, because it's hard, I'm going to give it a bit more pressure than I would the other clay. I'm trying not to get a lot of finger marks. There's a little bit of a finger mark in there, but you're really trying to keep it smooth. Keeping it smooth on the inside, keeping it smooth on the outside, and just gently rolling it through your hand so that you're turning it and squeezing it. So it's a turn and then a squeeze, but very slowly, very gently. And the idea is that you're working evenly. So you're trying to get this to be evenly thick all the way around. If you notice that it's getting a little thicker in one area and thinner in another, just change your pressure so that if you're giving it more pressure in the areas where it's a little bit on the thicker side and less on the thinner side. Now, as I'm working around, I'm also trying to press down. So I'm going in deeper at the same time as I'm going around. But you'll see it's fairly even as I'm working. So I'm going to still keep going a little bit more. And again, this clay is not as soft as earthenware. So it's going to give your fingers a workout. They might cramp up. You might need to take a little break. You can actually, if you want to, you can switch hands. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to switch hands and have the left hand doing the work now. Again, I'm trying to squeeze with the fingers and just use the thumb as the placeholder. Because I'm right-handed, it feels a little bit more awkward with the left hand, but it still works and it's giving my right hand a break. So again, I'm slowly working my way around. The goal is to get a bowl it's a little rounded on the bottom, and that it's even all the way around. We want to get it down to approximately 1/4 of an inch thick. You could do 3/8 if your hands are really bothering you. If the clay is moving well for you and you can get it to go that thin, go down to 1/8 of an inch thick. So I'm going to just keep going a little bit more and trying to get it, again, even, thin, and also smooth. So the idea is that the parts that we're looking at, like on the edges here, these are nice and smooth. I'm trying to get rid of any finger marks. I'm trying, if you see like this little crack here, blend that through and smooth it out. So the idea is that I'm really keeping this nice and smooth and even. Now, if the sides are a little uneven, I'm going to work a little bit more just to get them evenly thick. But if they were to be evenly thick, but they're like uneven in terms of the height, you could just turn it down and tap it. So if you're pressing down, tap it. You can tap a little bit harder. And you see that gets it nice and flat, but again, now it's a little thicker. So I have to go back in, and I'm going to squeeze that and get it thin. So got it nice and even in terms of the flatness on top, but now I have to work around and get it evenly thin, because that when I flattened it, some of the areas that had too much clay also went and got a little thicker from the clay needs somewhere to go. When you press it one direction, it offsets clay in another direction. So I'm just going to work a little bit more with my thumb now, just because, and notice I'm using my left hand, not my right. Just trying to give my right hand a break, number one. But also my left thumb works differently than my right thumb in here right now. So just trying to get in deeper and get the walls thinner. You should be able to feel in between your hands, your fingers and your thumb, how thick the wall is. If it feels like it's thicker in one spot than another, then just go and get that a little bit thinner. So you just squeeze wherever it feels a little thicker. And if it feels too thin compared to the rest of it, then just skip over that area. But your goal is really to get a bowl that's evenly thick all the way around, really not more than 1/4 inch in thickness. So you can see I still have a little tiny bit more to go. I'm getting there, but you see it's nice and smooth on the inside for the most part, and it's relatively smooth on the outside. Now, where I have these finger marks, anywhere that it's up a little thicker, I can press down and go thinner. So really the goal is getting it refined and smooth, nice and clean, and even. That's your goal is even and smooth. So anywhere that it's not quite even, not quite smooth, I'm going to blend it in. I like to use the back of my nail for that, but you can also take your tongue depressors and press. And you notice that because I'm supporting on the inside while I'm pressing on the outside. And what that does is it just keeps the clay from getting pushed and collapsed around where you don't want it to be. But the tongue depressor does give it a nice smooth surface. So if I'm working around just to try to clean up, I can rub a little bit where I need to. But even just the pressure of this, that's, because it's flat, it's going to flatten out and provide a nice even surface on the pinch pot. So again, you could see where the dents are a little bit more here. Might go back in with my fingers a little more around those areas. But just trying, you can see, and it's not as even right here. So I'm going to really work on evening out that rim. I want that rim nice and even. I don't want any areas that are very much thinner or very much thicker than any other area. And when I get it really pretty much the way I want it, I might not go that whole way. I'm just going to go as close as I can right now so I can move on to the next thing. But when you get it nice and even like this, and it's nice and smooth everywhere, it's almost there. I just have to go a little deeper on the inside. A lot of times this will be the area that's going to be a little bit thicker, because a lot of times you go a little thin on the bottom and your sides, and then you have this area that's just kind of missing out on getting the pressure. So just go in there and really even it. And you can feel it. A lot of times it's actually better to work with your eyes closed, because you can really feel the clay even more so than you can see it. And so, I mean, this is not perfect. You know, it definitely needs a little bit more refining. But which I'm just going to do a little bit of. Things like that are probably holes, so those might need a little bit more work to get them smooth. You might have, sometimes you have to pop the holes in order to smooth them out. In this particular case, it seems like it's holding just fine. So when I get it, it's not, you know, it's nice and it's even and it's refined. It is a little thicker on one side, but this one, let's make believe it's completely done. Then, you know, you see it'll be wobbly because the bottom is round. You can just tap the bottom a little bit and voila, it's good enough. So, and then again, every step you want to get a photo. So you can take photos at different stages. Like when I first put the hole in, that might be a good place to take a photo. When I was maybe about this thick, you know, out a little bit, take a photo. When you get to, you know, a little bit closer to this, take a photo. And you get photos from different views also. So you can see that it's smoother on the outside, that it's nice and even. You can, when you get that flatter at the bottom, you know, so it'll stay, you could do that. Take photos from the sides and from the top, or even from the bottom, just so you can see how it looks.